Someone just came in downstairs. Sound like
Get somebody. But we can go ahead and do us.
We get ready to record. We'll let you hustle on through there. How you doing? Good to see you. Hey, bro. How you doing? How you doing? Hey, great. Good to see you. All right.
Good day, citizens of Gates County, and any others that might be tuning in. We are meeting this morning as pertaining to our budget that the county manager has presented to us. We also have a meeting with our board of elections. To begin with, we'll begin with the prayer. I'd like to call on our vice chairman, Commissioner Owens.
You like to stand?
All stand.
Let's pray. Dear gracious Father, we are here before you today, Lord, to represent you in our decisions, Lord, that affect our county and our citizens. Lord, we pray for your blessing over our decisions, Lord, and your guidance. And Lord, we just ask you to give us discernment in all of this, Lord. We lift up all of our citizens today in this great nation, in this state of North Carolina, and our great county. And Lord, we just ask again that you would continue to bless us. And we praise you for the blessings that we already have been benefited from. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Owens, for the wonderful work. We'll pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Our commissioners meeting in regards to the budget and also our meeting with the Board of Elections is now in session. Is there any comments as pertaining to the budget for the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we go into public hearing.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Go to public hearing. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, we go into public hearing. Thank you, Commissioner Owens.
Do we have any emails, Melissa?
No emails?
No emails or citizen comments have been submitted to me. We have one comment in the audience.
Have one comment, did you say? All right. As we address that comment, Superintendent, Dr. Williams? Yes, sir. If you'll come
He
up.
just stands right here. Well, no, he can stand
Just-
here.
okay,
You can
stop
hear
right
that.
here.
No, you just stand right here.
We only did, right there is good. Thank you, sir. Nice to see you. And again,
Nice to see you.
we want to, as commissioners, certainly thank our county manager for presenting this budget, as well as the commissioners working on the budget. So, and certainly our finance officer for presenting those figures. Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just silence this phone here so it don't go off.
Is time already started? Like,
Yes.
Okay.
The clock did start.
Okay, real quick. Number one, and first and foremost, I want to say thank you for all that you do for Gates County Schools. I appreciate your thoughtful insight. I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate everything that you do to help the school system. And I just want to come over here and say thank you. Number two, tomorrow the governor's going to make an announcement on how we're going to come back to school. I tried to find out this morning. They usually kind of tell us a little bit ahead of time, but they didn't. He's not going to say anything till tomorrow. And then the last thing I want to say real quick was this lady right here sent me a grant for OBC to get some money for PPE and stuff like that. And so as soon as she sent it to me, I submitted it. And so we're on the table for about $55,000 that we're going to get. So any grants that you all get, and you want to shoot to me, do that. I filled that grant out on Friday at Panera Bread. So we got that in. OBC actually said that they're going to give me some avenues to help me build a running track once we get through this. So that's another piece of money that I can do to help Gates County out. So
Doug, we certainly appreciate you bringing that forward. And I had a little insight on that as far as the OBC grant. Not only appreciate you applying for it, but also taking the time to take that to OBC, as I understand, and present it to them by hand.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that went a long way.
Yeah, well, the lady told me, she said, you're the first and the only one in the Tidewater Western region area up here that has submitted it, and you did a very thorough job with it. So, I just really appreciate you all helping me out on that. It helps me out a whole lot. It helps my kids out.
Thanks for being very proactive in that. Commissioners, any comments or?
Just wonderful news.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you all. Y'all have a good day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have there been any other public comments, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Is any comments, concerns by fellow commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion to come out of public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor to come out of public hearing. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, we stand out of public hearing.
Would you like for me to read the ordinance as I've done in the past? That's at your discretion.
I have my copy right here.
Pass it now.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we pass fiscal year 21 budget as presented by the county manager.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to pass the budget as presented by the county manager. Is there any discussion? Hearing none,
It's
is there a
someone second that motion,
Yes.
okay. That's what I thought I heard. I just want to make sure we're doing it legally.
Thank you. Is there a second?
She
She
just
seconded.
seconded it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did not hear you, Dr. Riddick. All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of passing the motion? Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, budget for year 21 is hereby passed.
Now-
Thank you.
I do have a question. During the June budget work session, can't remember what date that was, we had implemented a hiring freeze, and the only position that could be hired at that time was the social worker, 3 positions at Department of Social Services, and they still have that vacancy because they did not have any applicants last time when the position closed. The sheriff's office does have an SRO position that is funded through grant funds, and we had said at that time that that position was not essential at that time. Since that time, the sheriff has identified a candidate who is willing to work at the middle school and would like to know if you would allow that position to be filled, since it is a grant-funded position.
Fully funded grant funded.
No, it's $33,000. The county picks up the difference, which is in the budget, because we did budget for that. We
The
budgeted
only
the-
thing why we delayed it, it was school wasn't in
Right.
session.
And that was the most recent SRO grant that I think Jeremy
No.
just got. There's 2 grants.
This one is the one we've had for the middle school. The elementary school
Was the one-
position was
okay.
the new one last year. That position is still filled. The SRO at the middle school has left, and this position is vacant. And the reason the sheriff would like for this person to come on board this month is because all SROs are required to attend a school resource officer training. And that class will be at the end of this month, end of July.
So
And he would like for this person to attend before he goes into the school system, instead of working in the school system for a year and then attending class.
And so do you need a motion for us to give permission to go ahead and
Yes, since you had implemented,
redo the hiring freeze?
yes.
And he can fill this position. I'm guessing you said he has somebody in mind. It doesn't have to be posted or anything like that.
No, they do all of their internal hiring.
And commissioners, to help clarify that just a bit for our citizens as well as commissioners that may not know, that is a position that was filled, and that particular SRO left back in, I believe, April.
April, May.
April, May. So that was something already funded, it's already doing, it just so happened that particular SRO left employment with the sheriff's office and went elsewhere.
So do we fill it immediately or wait until like July the 15th? Is that?
He wishes to go ahead and fill it immediately. He already talked to the person. And I told him I had to ask you, since you had implemented the hiring freeze.
I make a motion that we, lift hiring freeze in regards to the SRO officer. What hiring freeze? No, you're just a general, lift the general hiring freeze.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to lift that hiring freeze in this particular incident. Is there a second?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You brought up first the social work position, so does that fit in the same thing?
That position, you had already, excuse me, you had already approved filling that position.
We were going to see we approved that.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm not, I want to second Commissioner's motion, but I think I might like to hear it
Rephrase,
rephrased.
okay,
And it's not time for debate.
until we have a second.
Right, protocol,
Well, if no one seconds her motion,
I held out, yeah,
or, right,
or I can withdraw. How about I withdraw it?
All right, the motion stands withdrawn. Discussion as pertaining to that.
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner. I'm really, when we're talking about the pinch financially, it goes on. It continues on. I would like for us to, rather than remove the hiring freeze, department-wide, county-wide, I'd rather us take each one on its own merit and make an exception, maybe call this an exception, so that the county, the citizens, and we'll be reminded that we are still watching the purse strings very closely, and we're not, because some department heads, they removed the hiring freeze, I'm going to start looking, this or that, and we could get into some unnecessary hiring. I know county manager probably wouldn't let that happen, but at the same time, I think we need to keep our feet to the pedal on that.
And it's a good suggestion.
And you know what, you don't know, have no clue what the portion, county portion would be, do you?
it's, the SRO position is funded with $33,000.
But you don't know what he's going to fill this position
No,
at.
we've not discussed that, but regardless, the benefits are $8,000, I think it's $8,100 for this coming year,
And when did the benefits start?
July 1st.
I mean, like,
Oh,
if
the
they
day
start,
they're hired.
the day they're hired. And that's why I was just thinking July 15th, because county manager said the class is in July. That's 2 weeks worth of,
Well, that's not the way insurance works, though.
I was thinking about pay, the pay
Yeah.
aspect.
And Mr. Chairman, I do have a question about the SRO.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
It sounded like your comment was that this new person, this new candidate is filling the position of the person that left in April.
Roger that. Yes, sir.
So my question about the grant is, was the grant funding the person who left in April or the
Yes.
person coming in?
No, the grant is the one that the schools, he's left. It runs for the school year.
Okay.
Well, or whenever they receive the money, but it's a fiscal year, so we kind of look at it as a school year.
So you're reminding us that it's grant funded, not that there's a new grant coming in.
Right, there's not a new grant, it's grant funded. They acknowledged that they were going to receive a total of $66,000 for 21. 33,000 is for the position at the middle school, 33,000 is for the position at the elementary school.
And my only concern was just, like you said, sort of piggyback, wait 2 weeks. She said the class is in July, just a little bit of money. The way we just came out of the budget.
But do you know exactly when that class starts?
I do not know.
He just said the end, so I don't know which week of July. Some people consider the last week, the next last week. I'm not sure.
Also, wouldn't he, and I'll defer to the chairman, when the new person comes in, and there's some things that he has to go through with our sheriff's department besides the training with the SRO
Well, after he's hired, there's a field training
or
that he
orientation.
would go through. However, that's also included in, he is an officer sworn already. So that would be, some of that would be waived.
But some probably, still, every department does things a little bit
Yes.
different. That he would have to be accustomed to, or get accustomed to.
But to get back to Commissioner Owens' point, I agree with that. Remember, we talked about not going back as business as usual as far as the finances of Gates County. So we want to send a strong message that business as usual is not going to continue. We have to be mindful of the budget going forward, because COVID is still with us. We don't know what's going to happen with sales tax and all of that. So we want to send a strong message that, yes, we have a balanced budget. We're also going to do our due diligence to ensure that everything flows consistently with what we focus on as far as our infrastructure as it relates to the budget.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, if possible. I'd like to make a motion that we remove the hiring freeze solely for the position of SRO, that it can be filled as of July the 15th, 2020.
And Judy, are we also entertaining the fact that Commissioner Owens mentioned in the event other emergent situations come up? Is that the way I understand?
And that's why the motion was, I don't think it's a position of.
The motion will cover the.
Yeah,
fault that I
it'll
was
cover-
saying.
Okay, very well. Just want to make sure that.
Gotcha.
I understood that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye. Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none. That position is to be filled. Thank you, Madam County Manager, for bringing that up.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to direct a question to the county manager.
Yes, sir.
Natalie, could you help the citizens and us understand, we just passed the new budget. What happens to the interim budget?
The interim budget goes away.
Okay,
You do not have to take any action on it.
very good. That's all I have.
Glad you brought that up. But,
Do we need to do anything to any of the money we moved or anything like that? Pass anything? That we used to balance it at the last meeting?
No.
Okay.
And DMV North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles will be notified right away of our established tax rate so they can get busy on printing that stuff, right?
As soon as the chair signs this,
Mhm.
copy will be given to Chris Hill and he will send that to the state.
Okay, very good.
excellent comment with the, to our citizens, our tax director is present, Mr. Hill. So appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you.
Under old business, the budget and the 2020 election discussion, and this, as was brought to my attention by our clerk, it was also questions that we had for the board of elections. So commissioners, if you will, questions you have, we have some members of board of elections here. Thank you for being here. Does anybody have questions to the board of elections?
You have before you the letter that you stated, that states the questions that were developed at the June 15th meeting that you requested I send to the Board of Elections.
Thank you, Madam County Manager.
That's what they are here
Okay.
to provide to answer.
Yes, thank you for bringing those back to our attention. Some of us had not had them in front of us, so thank you.
And if you would like, the chair can sit up front.
Mr. Sears, standing
If
as
you'd
chair
like
for the
for
board
him
of
to come
elections.
closer.
Thank you for being here, sir, and the other members and the citizens that are here interested in that. All right, commissioners.
Just before we get started, I walked right out of the house and left my copy of the questions.
I don't have a printed copy, I just, okay.
We have a copy of it.
She had a copy of the questions for me. She said she had something else if you need it.
While we are examining that and while, commissioners, you're going over that. What I see is there are 4 documented things in front of us. Don't see anything else.
Yes, sir, there are questions after that as well.
Other questions that the county manager advises you've gotten that's going to be added?
No, those questions are in there. They're underneath the bullet points.
Okay.
Paragraph.
They're
Mr. Chairman,
the next 2 paragraphs.
I'll begin just.
Yes, sir.
If you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind.
Please do.
Now direct my comments toward the chairman, Mr. Sears. So glad you're here with us. We realize we're mandated to provide dollars for the Board of Elections and glad to do it. And you've heard us mention over and over that we're continuing to watch what we spend. So in our thought process, and I say this, our thought process, because we've shared this with one another, is that we want to provide the best opportunity for everybody to come and cast their ballot. What we have been concerned is there too much personnel here, and I don't know all the rules, so we're leaning toward your knowledge. Is there too much personnel here? And I know the state probably dictates the hours that have to be open. So I'll ask, has anything changed from what we have here and what we just presented you, that $65,070.05? Has anything changed, or do you believe there's anything that could be moved around a little bit or changed without hindering the process that could lower that number?
Okay. Let me say at the outset that nobody knows what the situation with COVID will be by November. Nobody. So, that's an unknown to begin with. All we can do is to prepare the very best we can for what the eventuality may be at that time. And we want to try to, as best we can, adapt to that. Let me say at the same time, all of you, I expect, saw Georgia last week. Did you see the election in Georgia last week?
Not in detail.
But you saw what the television carried with the lines that were stretched all over every which way, and people waiting in line and all that kind of thing. For sure, we don't want anything like that. Now, we don't intend to try to plan for that kind of situation, but at the same time, we do want to be mindful of the fact of how it may very well be. Let me go off into one instance. If at a polling place on the election day, if we have all of our workers, the poll workers, if we have all of them in face coverings and gloves or whatever other kind of PPE they want, whatever, if we have that, then persons who come to cast their vote, we would expect them to comply with whatever rules we have with regard to the polling place. And if we say you gotta have a mask on to come to the polling place, you gotta have a mask on. It's as simple and straightforward as that. If a citizen comes and wants to cast his or her vote and they don't want to put a mask on, they stay outside. I mean, do you understand? Do you understand what we're trying to do?
Does that mean that for that example that you just gave, does that mean that you're going to treat that person like a curbside voter? You're going to send somebody out there so they can vote?
If they refuse to put a mask on, if they put a mask on, they can come on in and cast their vote like anybody else. But I mean, that if we are at that point with COVID by the time of the election, that would be the situation we have.
Do you already know that you have an increase in absentee ballots at this point over last election?
Not as of this point, but if there were more requests that were made.
Would you like for her to come up? She's raising her hand back there. I think it'd be good if she come up and,
Got an extra check.
yeah,
We got an extra chair right here.
I can stand, it's fine.
Our director is
we're gonna need,
approaching.
we're gonna need you to come down for the mic.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
Pick up. That one's a whole lot better if you need to back up.
Oh,
Yeah, you can stand in the back of the room and this one.
oh, really? Good. Good. So, Becky, it sounds like, when your hand went up, sounds like that's a good question. You answer maybe on the absentee?
Absentee for the March primary, we had a total of 22. So far, we already had 14 requests to come in. They don't go out until September. So I'm sure probably in the next couple of months, they'll start picking up.
Do you anticipate? I'm wondering if
I don't
you have
anticipate.
a large number of that, that's gonna change the potential for a line possibly, right?
It could be positive. And see, and one of the things, all across the country, we've seen that those places where the people feel comfortable, they go. If they don't feel comfortable, they don't go. I mean, people actually do that. So what's gonna be the impact of that? It'll be whatever the situation is. If let's say at the last of October, the governor has a place that he says, let's go back a step. What's gonna happen?
No.
And nobody knows.
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if I may, we already harped on a number of these issues. Commissioner Owens was not at that meeting. I think it'd be wise if we go over the 6 questions that were presented in the memo on June the 15th and get those answers. Then if we have any additional questions, we proceed.
Mr. Jones brought something forward. Commissioner Owens, how do you,
I'm good with that.
good with that?
And also to add to that, the budget that you presented, $65,000. My question was, before we get to others, I think it's embedded in here, is how much of this can we get COVID money or some kind of money to help, especially the PPE? It's in this $65,000, but we can get that from the state, and we can take that off the top. If we,
Excuse me for interrupting, man. As I recall, I don't have that in front of me. It was about 46,000 expected. Is that, am I?
30.
But it's 10,000 that's HAVA funds as well, and that's what I was gonna look, do you have to apply for those?
No, not the HAVA funds.
Okay, so
That's
that's,
automatically.
so that's where the 46 comes from then.
26.
It's
There's
46,
36, including the 10.
it was 46 according to what the County Managers Association sent us.
46,608.
So my memory wasn't,
Yeah.
my memory wasn't that bad.
I know each
$600.
10,000 was just HAVA
Okay,
itself. With those PPEs, however, we're still trying to figure out how the state is gonna handle it, because we know they're getting monies as well. And they have told us that they will order things in bulk for us.
Good.
I don't know if they're gonna order in bulk and take away from the amount that we're supposed to get before they give it to us, or is that an amount that comes directly to the county?
Understand?
And then
Gotcha.
we have to purchase it that way. I don't know.
And some of that stuff that the county manager said we already had.
I know that
Okay.
Mr. Wynn
Yeah.
had already
That came up at
ordered
the
them.
meeting or something.
But my question was, and I think you clarified that, is that with the 65,000, when we look at the budget, and we know, or we think we know how much we're gonna get, help with that, we can just not put that in this budget at this time, we know contingency, put it over there, okay, and contingent on getting or receiving such and such. So that helps us focus on the actual budget and make sure that you have, or not you, but the election board have what they need to run the election. And that was my concern. We want to make sure, that make myself clear. The Board of Commissioners want to make sure that we have everything we need in Gates County for a safe and secure election. That includes whatever PPE we need, that includes personnel, but we have questions and make sure we're on target contingency. Because we don't know what's going to happen, but we have a budget, so then we can plan on it. We know we have money coming, we don't know how much or when, but that helps us focus and be clarity and clear going into this season. That makes sense?
Yes, and can we be ready in September for November election?
Mm-hmm. We need to know that.
And we'll have some little bit of
Yeah.
in the situation.
As best as you know.
So
So
I feel like the state will have some clarifications, like
as we go
funds.
forward. So I agree with Commissioner Jones that we go down with these questions and
Yes.
get these things.
Thank you, Commissioner Reddy. And like I say, 46,000 is what I recall. I didn't have the figure 608 that Commissioner Jones had, and that does make me senile for not finding. Any other questions or comments as pertaining to those figures?
Let's go to the first question.
All right, so we go to the first question. Does everybody have that in front of them? The number of sites, am I correct on that? All right. And I think that did come up and we talked about what had been in the past. Any comments? As pertaining to the number of polling sites?
We have 6 for election day. Our one-stop plans have not been approved yet or actually drafted, so we're not definite on one-stop sites.
So 6 versus 9. So
Well, the 9 was including what we did in March, which was 3
okay.
one-stop sites. And like I said, we haven't approved our one-stop plan as of yet. It's still being drafted.
That's drafted by local board.
Yes.
Our
And how
commission-
many of the off-sites, I mean, the one-stop voting prior to the election, could you give us the number of people who used each site?
Off gate,
Blanchard Grove was one.
maybe 70 something. Maybe 70.
And the other one was Gates, wasn't it?
Gates, that was probably around 177, it may be 277.
And the third one was at
Was
the
the
office
office.
of the Board of Elections.
Mr.
And how
Chair,
many by,
Probably 356,
so the majority went to
the office.
yes. Okay.
Mr. Chair, the
Yes.
memorandum sent to the Board of Elections on June the 15th. The first question was, the submitted memo and spreadsheet indicates there will be 9 polling sites. Please list the polling sites noting which will be the one stop. So there's 6 polling sites. So you're saying that the Board of Elections is recommending 3 one stop again?
That was based off the March election, because we have not decided on what we're gonna do in November yet. So these calculations are based on exactly what we did in March.
That decision can be made local.
If everyone agrees locally.
Right.
If everyone doesn't agree locally, of course, it's going to the state, but the state has already given us recommendations on what they suggest that we do. And the local board is working on following those recommendations actually from the state.
Can you tell us what they are?
Sure. She recommends that we expand our voting sites for one stop due to COVID, and actually to utilize all 17 days, which may include voting on Sunday, but that's up to the local board. And I can forward you that memo as well if you would like from our
So
state.
these are
executive.
recommendations from the state.
Exactly.
However, your board understands the budget pinch that we're in and that we're mandated to put on a safe election. So the more sites makes it more trickier. And the numbers you just gave, it's sort of actually gonna, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Question 5 says there were 2 different numbers provided for voters in Gates County. The memo says 7981 registered voters, whereas the spreadsheet says 8131. Which number is correct?
Absolutely. That is a difference of 150 voters. If you did the calculations, it's a difference of 150 voters. If you understand that during election time for one stop, you are allowed to register and vote on the same day. So those are individuals who are not even on the roll, including that 7,900. So that's averaging maybe 8 or 9 people each day of one stop that may choose to move into the county and say, I'm going to register and vote today. So we accounted for those additional voters as well.
Very well. So we have 7,981 registered voters on books.
As-
Prior to that.
As of that day,
In the spreadsheet, because of the register and vote on
we just
that
added
day
150.
is 8,000, that brings up 8,131. Roger.
And
May I just go back? The reason they brought up the 9 spots in the budget that was just approved, it was one stop site that was submitted in the budget, and that's what was approved. Plus the 6 regular polling locations.
So the budget that we approved did not cover 2 additional sites.
No, and so the last budget as well. It didn't cover 2 additional sites, but we only approved the last budget for 1 site, and we worked with it, and we really pulled 3 out of 1 budget without asking for more money.
Thank you for working on that too. But it does it, and just looking at it from our standpoint, budgetary wise too, but also the safety of the citizens and the voters. It seems to me to make sense to have a one site, big issue to disinfect. Folks will know where to go, to stay on top of that, maybe not having to move as much stuff around to keep it disinfected or whatever for the safety of our citizens with this COVID-19. Just my thought.
But you know, one of the things about one site, if you do one site, Lord forbid, there's a gas leak at the site. What you gonna do? You gotta shut it down. Then you have nowhere else to offer citizens to go catch their boat during the one stop here. If something happens at the site, I mean, and realize that that's a reaching out. But if that happens, where are we? If you've only got one site.
Very good. I'm glad you brought it. I had not thought of that potential occurring. However, now that you bring it up, it does cross my mind, commissioners, that if a one site were to be at such a place, and the superintendent's not in here, as a community center, if you had that gas leak or problem to move to the library right across the road.
Or you could go to the office.
The office is not gonna accommodate the 6 social distancing because of how it's, that 2 entrances, you gotta go down the hall, you can only allow 1 voter probably in at a time, and then the rooms are very small for what we have on stop.
Would the library be sufficient? The library's been used in the past, correct?
That major room that she would allow us to use does have 2 entrances.
Yeah, it does. 3 entrances.
Right.
Because it has one from the lobby, one from the library, and one to the outside.
I think, if I may,
Yes, sir. Yeah,
the
that's right.
community center with that gym, you can spread them out. You have multiple entrances and exits. You have the library right across the way. To me, in a community such as Gage County, that community center, plenty of parking,
That is a good idea.
the
but-
social distancing.
Also, it's a level, you don't.
And I watched the election because I work remotely. And I saw they were in a big gym, spread out, multiple people doing different things, disinfecting, moving around. You're not confined or restricted in your movement as far as the poll workers or the disinfectants or whatever they're trying to do. The stations were set up. So when I saw that, I said, where can that be? The community center.
The only issue with that, it won't work because Clytia has to set up her stuff and that's, what's,
Technology?
no, volleyball season.
Yeah,
So
that
they're using
becomes an
the-
issue
okay,
between the
it's-
citizens'
it's-
extracurricular activities
It's
and
volleyball
voters'
season,
rights.
so they have
and-
volleyball practice and games.
Are they going to have that?
Well, excuse me, but volleyball,
It's not.
if volleyball takes a second, third, fourth, fifth place to a national presidential election.
Thank you.
And as a matter of fact,
Well,
the community center is
we
the,
agree with you.
the community center is the best facility in the whole county
It is.
for elections.
It is. So we need to talk with school system.
And to talk a little bit more about the chairman's comment about having one location. If there's going to be constant cleaning, if you had one location, you take the manpower or half the manpower that was going to be at the other 2 sites, just take half that manpower and let them alternate with registering voters, handling their ballot, and then they could take turns doing that and take turns cleaning, take turns doing that, and take turns cleaning. If we take half of the other 2 sites, we've basically eliminated the overhead for one site. And we haven't burdened the people at the one site because we gave them extra bodies from the other
And
locations.
it's social distancing.
And not only not overburden them, but I think it's more secure and safe. to have that large space in there where people can move around and breathe. You don't have everybody up in line. Even if there's a line, you have outside voting. But with this election and this unprecedented season with COVID, what do we say? Business is not as usual. We have to be prioritizing what we do and how we do it. So what we used to do as far as what we use it for during this time, this short period of time, I think it weighs more heavily on safety and security and resources, not only funding, but manpower. We have to be more cognizant of how we use our resources for this short period of time.
Let me also say that, that we're partners. We're partners in this. You know more about the election than we do, but we do have questions and recommendations, and just like we are leaning toward what the recommendations are coming from the state to you, we recognize those. But I asked twice already, and I got the right answer, that the local board makes the decision, and just if somebody else is handing you what to do, but you have the ability to make a decision. We are, and I know there are minimum standards, but we are partners in this. And please understand, if we make a recommendation, it's not to just contradict the state or to contradict the local board. It's to be a partner, and we have to watch the financial side of it. So that's where a lot of our conversation is coming from. And we're partners.
Well, I guess we can give you a little heads up on the community center ordeal. We will not be able to use the community center because we have suggested to use the gym. And as I said before, there are extracurricular activities that outweigh that voter, so that was not an option. We've already asked.
As Commissioner Owens just said, as I sat here and made my comment, there's 3 elementary gyms that can be used for a couple of weeks that.
Schools?
Football.
Tell me
With
again,
school
why
in session.
community center can't be used?
Well, she said they have basketball and the men probably wouldn't agree with giving up that space, that amount of time.
That's an easy falling over.
And that's an,
We don't fight.
we're talking about a short time, 17 days.
But the hours are very long.
But I know, but 17 days.
I agree.
Who are you
The whole
speaking
school,
with?
Mr. Chairman.
And we don't know what,
The whole school has been closed. Now, forget they may be back in school, but if the state can shut down the whole school system for the whole county from when? March till maybe January, and we can't ask somebody to make an exception to their schedule.
Mr. Chairman,
For 17 days.
yes,
Commissioner Owens, Commissioner Reddy, you want to make?
I'll make a suggestion, because we're not going to solve this today. I make a suggestion that you draft a proposal and get it to the powers that be, whoever's in,
Superintendent Williams.
superintendent, whoever, and present it with our support and our rationale,
With a copy to us.
with a copy to us, and we'll go from there. We're not gonna stay here all day and say who can use what. So just, that's my suggestion. Go back to the drawing board with our support of these 17 days. And just like Commissioner Owens said, these are unprecedented times. So,
and we don't
And
even
if I may, excuse me for interrupting, and Mr. Reddy, if I might add to that as well, rather than actually just saying the powers to be, let's make our county manager write a letter to the Board of Education, copy that to the superintendent.
So it'd be good.
And ask for that community center.
And we
for
don't
those
know.
17 days.
And we don't know what fall is going to hold for schools. They haven't even announced it. We might not have any.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I know, but it's,
But if we're gonna talk about, probabilities of what things may occur, there's one other factor that would enter into that. And that is, if school is in session, a circumstance, if the parents say, I I don't want all those strangers coming into the school where my child is. It's another old piece to try to deal with.
We'll put a ribbon around there and say, no children come in this vicinity for the 7-day
I
period.
started saying, the school does not use the community center as
that's-
much as it has in the past.
No, but I'm talking about the schools.
Oh, yeah, I'm just talking about that one, I'm talking about the one facility. Yeah.
One facility.
That can be also in the communication.
It
We
is-
need to have more discussion about particular. First, we gotta get site.
With the commissioner's ready suggestion and comment, I think we eliminate the schools and it's only community center
Okay.
with that letter.
Yeah, because it'd be hard to project if you considered all the schools.
No.
Yeah, it's the
Too many
community
unknowns.
center. is-
Community center.
Okay.
Commissioner Hopper, the sixth question, I think that's something you brought up,
What?
the next to last paragraph. Is that something that you wanted to?
Well, there has been a lot of discussion over the times I've been here and also with people contacting me. They just don't understand how voters are, about understanding how voters are removed from the voting rolls when people pass away. I know I had to come down and tell you, show you my mother's birth death certificate. But how do you get people off the rolls? And I know some people have been and nothing, they're still on the rolls.
Some people have been to the office to tell me,
Well, I don't
man,
know who they
you
told.
can't tell me that your neighbor passed and I removed it.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be a near
I
relative.
think this person was, his son was.
And you have to be willing to sign your signature to say, I'm taking them off.
Okay, so just tell us the process, so I can.
For dead or just anybody?
Just, somebody moves out of the county and they don't,
Okay.
want to go somewhere else.
Okay, the general statute 163-82.14.
So can you give me that number again?
163-82.14. That gives you how we actually purge our records. It's called a biennial list maintenance. We do it every other year, mostly every odd year, where we send confirmation mailings out to voters who we have not heard from, who have not voted in a while. No mailing has come back, they have not voted, they have not updated their address, we were not able to contact them. Every odd year, we send out a mass mailing to all those voters. If it comes back, it confirms that they are still around, they're still a voter. If it does not come back, it leaves them in an inactive state. If you're in an inactive state for 2 presidential elections, the system automatically removes you. So if you're dead and you've been inactive for 2 presidentials, then you're gonna be removed.
Very inactive.
And I don't know if the issue of them being on the roll is the problem. I think it will be more of a problem if, and I think that may be how I feel like others should address that concern when it's brought to you. Such and such is dead and they're on the roll. Well, it's such and such voting, because that's where the problem becomes. If such and such is voting and they're dead, then that's where you see voter fraud. But if that family member, and sometimes there are individuals whose family members don't live in the county, they're handling the business of the person that stayed in the county. And they may not remember that I need to go to the voter registration office and turn in their death certificate, because if you don't die here in the county, I'm not gonna get your death certificate.
And I'm sure Mrs. Horton sends you over a list.
For those in the county.
Right, I know they can't do that. But like, let's say a child goes off and lives in New York City or goes off and lives somewhere else and would like to be removed, that person would have to do what?
So when they go to New York City to register, on that form, it tells them to give us your previous address. If they provide the previous address of, I used to stay in Gates County at this address, then the state will generate a report and send it to us monthly, saying that this person is staying in New York now, remove them from your records.
So the
And do
state
you get a
New
lot
York
of
will
those?
provide-
Did you get a lot of those each year?
It's a report that we generate, that the state generates every month. It's called Department of Human Health Services.
But do you get a lot of people, names on it?
Not really.
But if we could, let's just run through one hypothetical. Ms. Mary Jones, who lives down Smith Road, alone because her children are all gone. She gets sick. She has a stroke. And her family comes home to take her to Alport. The family members decide to take her back to New Jersey. and you realize her name is still on the list. And they go about doing whatever they're gonna do. Her name is on this list. Who's gonna take it on? Based on what?
Nobody locally until they're notified.
And when are they gonna be notified?
That's up in the Smith.
So it would really be 8 years before she
And that's-
could be, because it would be 2 presidential
You notice a
elections.
lot of people not taking the initiative to update their status, is what you're saying.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that particular incident wouldn't be a priority to the family either.
Okay, but now, how, if we were concerned that she, let's say she dies up there and she's buried up there and that's the end of it. Now, if somebody can show me, because see, everybody who casts a vote in an election fills out an ATV form, an authorization to vote. Everybody fills out one. Now, if you go with me and we'll go through all of the ATVs for the March election, we'll find the name of Ms. Jones, who died. If we find one, that would be fraud. I submit to you ain't gonna find one.
That's good to know.
Good, but like I say, we have, every election, people will approach us about that.
Because they know somebody's dead.
The person is not living here and a variety of
The
scenarios.
media, for one thing.
Yeah, I think the media has a lot to do with it, but
Spread.
because we're local and you guys are elected officials of the county, do you believe that voter fraud takes place in our office?
No.
So that's the way we can counteract those conversations when they come to us. We know the process.
Mr. Riddick, on bid
I
address.
appreciate this conversation. I most appreciate the reading of the general statute 163-82.14, because this is a public hearing, it's a public meeting, and everyone who's listening can look at the YouTube, and if they have any questions about how people are removed, that's where they go. The scenarios that we just went to are extenuating circumstances. General statutes are not written for every scenario. This is the statute. Now, anyone has any questions about people being removed from the roll or staying on the roll, they can go to this statute, they can call the election board director, Ms. Johnson, and that should suffice. I'm so glad we had this conversation. So now we have the statute, the public has the statute,
And you could tell them to go read it.
and go read it.
But on a personal note, please don't say anything about fraud, because that puts me as chairman of the board who oversees fraud. We don't do that.
And last year we did have some, correct? That we had some charges in Gates County for voter fraud. The State Board of Elections investigators were down and arrested someone and
Do
died.
you want me to?
And we don't need to go into the details.
Just one voter.
But it does happen.
It wasn't a failure on our part.
Right.
The state sent
want
the
to
report late.
Right. I didn't want to be misreported. We have no voter fraud because we did, and we had an indictment and a conviction.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. The ones that were, the 6 questions we've answered, the ones that,
Just number 4, the quote for,
Serpro,
where was the quote for disinfecting polling sites?
Serpro. And you do know that, the cleaning of the polling places will be reimbursed by the state.
Any other questions, commissioners, or comments? So what we've done is, we have directed the county manager to write a letter both to the Board of Education and a copy to the superintendent for community center as a one-stop. Any other questions about
And
that?
the Board of Elections is also going to write a letter.
And Board of Elections, we can't.
We can't tell them to do
Yeah,
it,
we
but
can't tell them.
they have agreed to do it. Is that correct, Mr. Sears?
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Thank
I mean,
y'all.
I think it's good that it comes from both the Board of Elections and the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, and finally, I'd just like to thank y'all for coming and clearing up a lot of lack of communication. This is what I mean by communication and transparency. You know, we are here to support you in all the other facilities and departments in this county. But when citizens don't know such as this, they don't know. So the more we can communicate, stay in touch with each other, let us know what we can do to support you, but that's what we're here for. But the citizens need to understand that as elected officials, we serve all citizens of Gates County. And they have to let us know, and when we do, we don't ask questions to attack, we ask questions to clarify. And that's what's happened this morning.
And like I say, like general statute is wonderful to know because we had not been informed of that in prior.
And also just bring to the attention of, I know the Board of Elections knows this, but there's House Bill 1169 that's on the floor. Y'all focus enough on that. So that's in front of them, and that's dealing with COVID-19 and what have you. So current law, and it goes into page after page after page. So the House is now has that up for vote, but if anyone needs a copy of that, House Bill 1169, dealing with bipartisan elections for 2020.
We will be seeing you again.
And how is it kind of like recruiting people to work?
Horrible. So if you know workers that are interested in working,
Have you
manpower,
Have you advertised?
yes. It's been on the county website, the polling, interest. We have a newsletter from the state now that we're gonna post in the index. I'm not sure if voters actually read the index. But, we're passing it out. I passed it out to the board yesterday, and we're gonna pass that newsletter along. Apparently that's an issue across the state.
Yeah, I know it is an issue across the state. If we think of some people that tell them to contact you, and the requirements are,
Registered voter, 18 years old. It could be 17 if you're in high school. You just have to have approval of your principal and your parents. And willing to work a long, long day. Like people. You gotta like people.
Yeah. Thank you.
okay,
All right, thank you, Ms. Johnson.
what we can do to help recruit.
Mr. Sears, thank you, sir. All right, believe that ends it for our Board of Elections, and we have one budget amendment. Madam Abbott, Director of Finance.
Budget Amendment 51, when we ran the June payroll, there was a shortfall in two of the retirement lines for a very small amount. So one was in the admin finance department for $6 and one was in the tax department for 56. So
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve budget revision number 51.
I second.
All right, so motion and a second. Any discussion by any commissioners? With the budget amendment presented, number 51, if I'm not mistaken, go by memory again. All in favor of the motion and a second? All in favor, aye. Any opposed, like sign, here none. Thank you. Ms. Abbott and Mr. Steele. Any further business?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion on the floor for adjournment and a second. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Here none. Hereby adjourned.
Well, yeah, good work.
Good work.